So today we're going to do a small demonstration, very simple demonstration of how ExaGrid does ransomware recovery. So in other words, hacker gets into your environment, dwells there for a while, discovers how to log into your backup software, or manages to hack into a share that has your backup data in it, and prior to encrypting your primary storage, deletes all of that data, such that when you try to then recover after the attack, there's nothing to recover from. ExaGrid helps you in that sense. ExaGrid is a ransomware recovery solution, not a ransomware prevention solution. So I will show you a very simple demo of how that might look. For starters, for anyone who doesn't have familiarity with ExaGrid, we have been around for, I think it's closer to 19 years now. We are not a big name in the market. That's something Fred and I have to work very hard on doing, is getting the name out there. We are becoming more and more known. We have a very, very good reputation in the market, so things are going very well. We just need to get the word out, and doing things like this really helps our cause. We have a very high Net Promoter Score of +81, as you see. That is on a scale of -100 to +100, and is basically customer satisfaction rating, and that is the highest in the market for storage. So very important criteria there. We do have now over 4,800 customers worldwide in 81 countries. So although we are a small company, we are deployed in a lot of places, and we are becoming, as I said before, more and more well-known as time goes. So ExaGrid is a tiered storage backup solution. So we have a landing zone and a repository tier. The ExaGrid landing zone is what the backup software has visibility to. So when the backup is sent, the backup data is sent to ExaGrid, it lands in our landing zone, is committed immediately to disk, so the backup is very fast. We then maintain approximately 7 to 10 days of data in the landing zone that is not deduplicated, such that probably around 95% of restores will be satisfied from that tier without rehydration, which means it'll be much faster. And also, if you're trying to launch a VM directly from, say, yesterday's backup data, that will also be very quick because we do not need to rehydrate the data. Now, in parallel, we are also deduplicating that data that's in the landing zone and protecting it on the other side of the air gap in our repository tier. All of the objects in the repository tier are deduplicated and immutable by default, and that is where the full retention is maintained on the ExaGrid. That is air gap from the network, so that, as I mentioned before, the attacker that comes in and attempts to delete all of your backups before encrypting your primary will not be able to touch the data that's in that repository tier. We can then bring it back, rescan the software, and recover the data, which is what I'll be showing you. Just a couple of key points on ExaGrid's advantages in the market vis-a-vis other solutions that may be similar. We do have the fastest backups, once again, because we do deduplication, but it is not inline, so we don't get in the way of that backup speed. We have the fastest restores because 95% or at least of your restores will be from data that is in the landing zone and not in the repository tier, so it does not require rehydration. Our air gap is built into every appliance. We do not need to add any components to achieve an air gap on ExaGrid. It's just there on every appliance you have, and that is what provides our ransomware recovery solution. We have very comprehensive security. I won't go through that in detail. I don't have enough time, but we spend a lot of time in development to make sure security is up to par, because if we can't secure the data, then we failed on our mission. So that's the most important thing for us. We are a scale-out solution, which is, again, another differentiator, because rather than having one large controller and keep adding disk, what we do is when we need to increase capacity, we add appliances, which increases compute, network bandwidth, and capacity. So the solution over time actually becomes faster rather than bogging down as it would in a scale-up scenario. There's also no product obsolescence or no end of support at ExaGrid. So never will a customer receive a notice that you can no longer renew maintenance on your ExaGrid appliance because you need to refresh it to a newer system. That does not exist at ExaGrid. The maintenance will never increase by more than 3% year over year, and you can keep it as long as you like, and it will always be supported by ExaGrid support. Never any third party or anything like that. So very good from a financial perspective as well. And we are a very dense solution. Our largest appliance has 378 terabytes usable in 2U. So we're able to be very rack friendly and offer very large solutions. Our scale out system can grow to 32 appliances in a single logical system. So that is large enough to ingest a 6 petabyte backup. Largest in the market in terms of how large we can scale. And we also have price protection, which means that when you become an ExaGrid customer, the discount level that you received for the initial purchase is locked in at headquarters for 5 years. And because we're scale out, if you plan on buying more 3-4 years down the road, you already know what that's going to cost you because we've locked that in. So we don't play the game of going super deep on discounts just to win your business and then make it up in the back end. That does not happen at ExaGrid. And we have a differentiated support experience, which I'll talk about after I do the demonstration. So this is, I was talking about before, the repository tier on the ExaGrid is non-network facing. This is a virtual air gap, so it's all controlled by our software, but all of the data that resides in the repository tier cannot be reached by anyone in your network. Whatever's in the landing zone, it can be deleted if someone hacks into one of your shares or your backup software. However, what's in the repository cannot be touched. And everything is immutable. That's table stakes now. You have to have that. Delayed deletes is our ransomware recovery solution. That is a method by which once a hacker tries to delete your backups, we will hold on to them for up to 30 days. And I will show you guys that in the demo. So this is what I just talked about. Hacker gets into the backup application, instructs the software to delete all of the restore points. We receive it, we acknowledge to the software the restore points are gone, the backups have been deleted. As far as Veeam or Commvault or whoever, we support 26 backup applications. As far as the software is concerned, all of those backups are gone. We still have them, and we can bring them back and recover back to primary storage when the request is made. So with that, I'll just move into a quick demonstration. So if you could move over, if you could switch this up. All right, so I'll just start by logging into my interface. Very simple UI, easy to use. Not that you need to spend much time doing this because it pretty much is set it and forget it. This is a lab that I run on my laptop. It's just a local lab that I have running directly on the machine. So whenever a new user logs into the ExaGrid, we get prompted to scan the QR code and register for 2FA. Extremely important, because if we're going to protect the data in the appliance, we need to turn that on. Very, very important to do this. In my case, because it's my laptop lab, I will skip it. But as a customer, you should never skip that. It's extremely easy to do, takes seconds, and is really, really an important layer of security for your data. So this is the very simple ExaGrid interface. This is the dashboard, just showing the amount of capacity that is in the ExaGrid system, the amount of capacity that is available for your next backup, how much is being retained currently in the repository tier, and all of those interesting statistics. Up here you see the time lock. You said I had a pointer, right? Up here you see the time lock is set to 10 days. That means that once there's an event and all of the data has been requested for deletion by a hacker, we will acknowledge that, but then hold on to the data for up to 10 days to give you time to react and be able to get your data back. And then once that happens, you would go, if you really were attacked, you would go here and say suspend all shares, and that basically stops all activity on the ExaGrid, and the retention time lock setting is now permanent. We will never get rid of that data automatically once you've done this. So you have all the time you need to do your investigation and figure everything out as to where you need to recover from. And down here is the statistics of what we're holding on to on the ExaGrid appliance. If you see that primary retention over here on the right side says that I have 53.47 megabytes of primary retention. That means that is the capacity that I am using on the appliance, very small. However, if I go to my primary shares, I am actually protecting a little over a gigabyte, 1.17 gigabytes of data, and that, once again, is the benefit of dedupe, right? So I've protected all this data logically, but I'm really only consuming a very small percentage of it. And this up here is the global deduplication ratio being realized on the box right now. All right, so what I've done for this demonstration is on my laptop, I have created a sort of a little sample application, if you like, that a customer might have. So in my RTL demo folder, I've created something called customer application, which right now is in a healthy state. It is running fine. I have a bunch of important files. This is a mock-up, right? So I need to make it simple. And I can see if I go to the Z drive here, the Z drive is actually the share on my ExaGrid appliance. So when I do a backup, I'm using PowerShell just to basically copy the data to that share. That is going to the ExaGrid and being protected by the appliance. So in the case of a ransomware attack, the hacker will attempt to dwell in your environment for some time and build an attack plan, likely go and mess about in Active Directory to see what they can get access to. One of those things being they will want to gain access to your backup environment to go and be able to delete your backups, or be able to find a share such as I have on the Z drive, on the Z drive there, and say, well, I'm going to hack into this share somehow, and I'll destroy all of the backups in it so that the customer cannot recover once this happens. So if I go to this Z drive here, you can see that I've got a bunch of zip files that these are basically my backup files that I have protected using PowerShell to just do basic copies. So if I needed to do a production recovery, outside of an attack, if I went into one of these backups and expanded it, I can see that I've got, this is the dev one, this is a different one that I was backing up as well. These are just a bunch of PDFs I have in there or PowerPoints that I have in there. If I had one that got corrupted, I could just then do a restore, much like I would do if I had Veeam or Commvault or whatever of the 26 backup applications you happen to be using. So in an operational situation, very straightforward. So the attacker is in your environment, they figure out how to hack into the share that you're using for your backups. And prior to encrypting your primary storage, they say, I want to make sure that this customer cannot retrieve any of the data on their backup appliance, so I'm going to go in and delete every single backup they have on their machine. So now they've deleted all of the data in that repository, and now effectively there is no more data available. If this were a backup software, you would go to list all of the restore points available to you, and you would get 0, goose egg, because they're all gone. Then the attacker would say, okay, now that I've blown that away, I'm going to go encrypt the primary storage to get this customer in a situation where they will have to pay the ransom, no choice. So in my case, I have that mock application that I created. So I'll just go into here and I'll just write, the words encrypted, if I know how to write that, just to demonstrate that this application has now been compromised. But it's Saturday, everybody went home on Friday, no one was paying attention, no one knows this is happening. They come in on Saturday night, Saturday night, the backup, again, this is my PowerShell script. Saturday night, the backup runs for my application. And I can see now that in my Z drive, I once again now have a backup file available for retrieval. Great. So Monday morning, people come into the office and they access their application. Wouldn't you know it, the application is not working. It has been encrypted. You can't read anything. You can't do anything. And over time, someone decides that, well, there's been an attack. Something's happened. So we need to recover this application from our backup. So they will access the backup files, so access through the backup software, and then they will look and see, what do I have to retrieve from? Oh, look, I have a backup. Yay, great. Once they explore this backup, they can see that the backup I have available on my ExaGrid was probably taken after the attack happened, because I've got an already corrupted application that I can restore from. Obviously, I don't want to do that. So now what? This is where you say, I can't recover anymore. This is where ExaGrid's ransomware recovery story kicks in. So typically, what we will tell customers to do is contact their support person, and I'll talk about our differentiated support experience afterwards. We recommend that you contact that support person because they are not under fire. They're not the ones that have a CEO breathing down their neck because of what's happening, and they will be the calm voice in the room and can help you recover from this. And the way that we do that is, okay, you determine that the attack happened a couple days ago, so you need to recover something from, let's say, last Friday, for example, okay? So last Friday was what, the 10th? So you determine that this is the recovery point that you need to revert to. So when we go into the ExaGrid appliance, we can go into our shares and replicas area, and we see that this share that I was using for my backups is called October 10 share. It is a share that is online and active. Now I've determined that I've got a problem. I need to suspend this, as I mentioned before, because I need to halt everything while we figure out what to do. So when I say suspend all shares, I get a warning that tells me, if you suspend a share, if there's an investigation that's happening and someone says, oh, actually it was a false alarm, there really wasn't an attack, we just got whatever, something else happened, it wasn't an attack, we can then go and resume that share and nothing changes. Everything continues the same way. If, however, the attack did happen and we need to recover data in that share, now what happens is that share is effectively sealed and locked away forever. We could never use it again for anything but retrieving data. We'd have to create a new share to continue backing up. We could continue reading and restoring data from that sealed share, but you can never write to it again. That's basically what that warning is saying. So I acknowledge the warning and I suspend the share. It'll go into a transitioning state and then go into a suspended state. As we see, it's suspended now. So the investigation uncovers that, okay, well, we think this happened on Saturday. Let's look and see what we have from Friday that we can recover from. So we do a point-in-time recover. And this is something that customers can do independently. We, again, encourage you to contact support just because they are the calm voice in the room. They're not under fire. And what they'll do is they'll say, let's do a point-in-time recovery, and I will back the clock up to October 10th. At whatever time, I'll just leave it as the default time, and I will click on Find Recover Candidate. What ExaGrid will do is we'll go into the repository and we'll find all of the backups that are from this time period back. Because you're saying, starting at this point, I think everything was good, so bring back everything from that point backwards. So we'll say Find Recovered Candidate. Oh, had I done it already? So see, it found a transaction from 4:02 on October 10th. So if I say recover to candidate, again, I'll go into a transitioning state, and my share will end up in a point recovered state in a matter of several seconds. And now we see that the share is in a point recovered state. This is the state where that share is now officially locked down for read-only, and you will need to create a new one to resume backups after you're finished recovering your application. So now when I go back to the server, or the backup server, if I go back to that share, sometimes I have to disconnect and reconnect the share. It just depends. Sometimes I can just refresh it, and sometimes I need to disconnect and reconnect it. Come on. We do have user access policies defined in ExaGrid, so you can't just map it from anywhere or be anybody. You do need to log in to that share to make sure that you are authorized to connect to it. All right, so now you see that when I go back to my Z share, don't do this to me. My laptop lab sometimes glitches, and I've been doing this for the last 3 days and not had an issue. Hang on. Sorry about this. Little technical glitch. Damn. Okay. Sorry about that. Little lab glitch. This does not happen in real life, I assure you. So you can see that I changed the restore point just because I think that was where it was glitching on me. I've now brought back the backups from that time period back, previous to that point that I specified. And now if I wanted to go and validate that those backups are solid, if I went to look at the contents of one of them, this is the dev backup again. Let me look at the prod backup. The RTL demo. I can see that I have a backup of the customer application without the word encrypted in front of it, which means that I am in fact recovering something previous to the attack that had happened. And at that point, I would just, from the backup software, I would just do a rescan of that repository and then recover that data and be back in business without having to pay a ransom. And I'd be back in business a lot quicker than if I had to waste all that time hiring a firm to come and help me out and do all of this fun stuff. So now when I go back to, once I've done all of this recovery and everything is back to normal and everything is working again, now I need to go and create a new share to resume the backup activity. So at that point, I would go into ExaGrid and I would say, let's create a new share. So new share, and here I can give it a name. It doesn't really matter. And the type of share, as you can see in the list here, we have shares very specific to many, many different backup products. If a backup product is not listed in the share, it does not mean we don't support it. It just means we don't have specific integrations with that backup software. So in that case, we would use a universal backup share, which will work with the other stuff that we don't have specific integrations with. And then we would create that share. And in my case, it'll be a CIF share. If it was Veeam, it would be a Veeam Data Mover share. If it was some other backup products like NetBackup, it would be an OST share. We have specific ones for specific products. And once I create that, you will see that the share will go into a transitioning state and then will go online. And it means that now my application can go and map a new repository, change the jobs to point to that new repository, and resume backing up the data. after weeks or months or whatever it takes to fully recover all of the data that was in that corrupted share or that share that was, part of this attack, you may determine that you need to delete that share to recuperate the capacity that it is using, because there won't be any automatic expiration or automatic deletion of anything in that share. Remember, we've locked it down just to give you the time to go and find all the data you need. So if you do decide that you want to delete this, then you can simply, if you're logged in as an admin, as I am, you can now say, go and delete this share. When you say delete the share, what we do is we will send a request to a different person who's a security officer. It's not you, the admin. It's not somebody even in the backup team. They don't know what the day-to-day operations look like. It will force them to ask a question. And this is another layer of security that we add for you. So when I request that delete request has now been sent to the security officer. So I have 3 minutes. So I'll log out as myself, and I'll log in as the security officer. Once again, because it's my local lab, I'll skip the 2FA. And as a security officer, your only function, or the only thing you can do, is approve or reject security requests. I now see that I have a request to delete a share. I go see my team. Is this legit? Is it you guys? Is this an attacker trying to delete shares? Should I approve or reject it? Go ahead and approve it. And then I can also set a delay and say delete it in up to 30 days or delete it immediately. Depending on what your needs are, I'll delete it immediately. And I acknowledge that I know this is a destructive thing because all the data in there will now be gone. And I say delete now, and I can see that the share is being deleted. And if I log back in as the admin, I'll see that that share that had been point recovered is now gone, and all I have left is that new share that I had created and brought online. And everything is resumed. So that's pretty much the simple demo of how we recover from data that has been theoretically deleted from your backup software or from a share that we still have intact in our repository tier. If you can go back to the, okay. So fast, you did it before I asked. So as a last thing I wanted to mention, ExaGrid's differentiated support model. So this person, when you become an ExaGrid customer, you're automatically assigned a level 2 support engineer. This person is the person that is assigned immediately when you become a customer, even before you receive your gear. Once you receive your gear, you rack it, connect it to the network, make an appointment with this person. You'll know this person by their first name because this is the person you will always be talking to. Maybe it's Lou, maybe it's Pete, maybe it's whoever. There's a whole bunch of them. They will help you with the logical configuration of your ExaGrid, your network configurations, your security deployment, everything to get you up and running. And then they will also help you on the software side. So these support engineers know not only ExaGrid itself, but also the backup software. So they can help you with that side of it as well. Same thing is true if you call because you're having a problem. They will not log into their ExaGrid and say, it's not us, call somebody else. They will look into your backup software, make sure the repository isn't throwing errors, make sure your best practices are being followed. And if it does get beyond their knowledge from the backup software perspective, they will work with the backup software vendor to resolve this for you. It's not hang up the phone, call somebody else, not my problem. It doesn't work like that at ExaGrid. Also, within that maintenance and support agreement that we have with you, are things such as firmware upgrades. Everybody has a lot of equipment in their data center, a lot of things to upgrade, not so much time to do it. With ExaGrid, you make an appointment with the support engineer, you open up your support gateway, secure support gateway, the person logs in, does the upgrade for you, tells you when they're done, you're back in business. There's no cost that is wrapped into the maintenance and support agreement. So very differentiated. I don't know of any other vendor that doesn't do that, that does that without providing you with a bill for it, and we do not. And again, we have a net promoter score of +81 on a scale of -100 to +100, which is the best in the industry. and we're very proud of that. That's customer satisfaction rating. And that's it. I meant to say, come see us at booth 203, but I'll tell you now. If you have any questions or you want to hear about something else, or feel free to come and visit us. Thank you.